Hi everybody, it's Everett back with you from Hood Time Welding. Today has been one of those days. It just seems like everything and anything, we've been having problems with skunks and thought we had one trap this morning, a little jerk escaped. They've been messing with the traps. Um, the city's getting on me about my weeds are a little too high on my fence, and it just, stuff's a pain in the butt today, so if I'm not my happiest, I apologize now. So as you can see, we've got another deck. This one's not too bad. We've got some holes in it. We've got not a bad one here, but there's one here, there's one here, and then there's the bigger one right here, and there's some small holes here. First thing we're going to do is probably pop the belt off because we don't want to screw up this belt at all. But I'll make a diagram of how it's threaded in here so I don't forget. And then we'll have to pop a couple of these covers off. This one's going to have to come off so I can get in there. I don't think that one has to come off. I think it looks alright, but we'll have to see when we flip it what it looks like underneath. But like I said, at least this one. And this is a mulching deck. So there's extra pieces on it. We'll have to see if they're going to get in our way or, again, if we're going to have to pop them off. So, yeah, it should be a little bit of work. Not too bad. I've seen a lot worse. You know that from my other videos. But, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we'll start with doing a diagram so I can get this stupid belt back in the right way. So, let's get going. Alright, so you saw I got this all cleaned out. I found one little spot right here that I might as well fix. This spot I knew about, and then we have these three bigger spots. You might be wondering why I tried to square it off a little bit, and that's because after I get the plate on, you know how I like to weld the back side. So instead of having to weld the crappy metal, I figured try to get into the better metal. And, so that way, when this is sitting flat, or when this is on here, stuff's going to get caught up on the underside. So you know how before I've always tried to like back weld it and stuff, and that's mainly the reason, is just to try to keep crap out of it. The hardest part is going to be right here, just because this is so back far next to this bearing. So I'm not sure exactly. I might take this bolt out, or I might just leave it in and try to get something across here. I'm not sure yet. This one's not too bad. Sorry. This one and this one aren't too bad. The one pulley actually pulled out, so we had a service tech put it in, and he tried to put weld around this little plate that he used to stiffen it, and he couldn't weld it. So we cleaned that up. So this plate I might bring all the way out to here. I'm not sure. One of these other plates to just sort of tie it in a little better. I'm not sure yet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start making some templates for each piece, and start getting it cut out of metal. This piece, I'm not really sure if I can just weld it, or if I'm going to need to put just a small little piece in here and weld around it. I haven't decided on that one, but like I said, these other ones, we'll start making some templates so that we can start getting our sheet metal cut out. So you saw I got all the pieces set out yesterday, got them cleaned up. So for me, this is a new day. So today we're going to go ahead and start getting them put in. You know, some of them we're going to have to bend some, like this one, and this one, and this piece, and this piece. So we'll start working on that. I think it should go all right. Might have to beat on it a little bit, but you know, I'm good with a hammer, so we'll go ahead and get working on that. So there you go, guys. This is pretty much finished up. The only thing I got left to do is just put all the plastic and the blades back on, and then before I do that, though, I'm gonna paint this side for them. Just give it a coat of black spray paint. Let me set you down and flip this over quick. There we go. So this side, I was mainly just trying to get rid of all the holes, so stuff couldn't get up in behind where the seam was, and to give it just it's not really going to give it too much more strength because it's welded on the other side, but I was just trying to make it so stuff can get down in there, and then that'll sit in there and rot. So let me get it switched around here. Anyways, it's a nice little job. Not as bad as some, a little worse than others, but still nothing I couldn't handle. So as usual, if you like my content, big thumbs up, I always like. And comments, questions, I try to answer them right away if anybody notices. Sometimes I miss them, but majority of the time I'll catch them and I try to answer right away, or at least get you an answer. And I really appreciate all the guys chiming in. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.